an author can make me feel like I'm flirting, like someone's flirting with me, it's over. I read a lot of books this month. Hi guys, welcome to my channel. My name is Ashley, and today we are going to be doing a January 2024 wrap up of the 15 books that I read in the month of January. 15 books is a lot. I recognize that. I do not typically read 15 books in a month. However, I would like to. Like, let's be for real. I would like to read this many books per month. So for accountability purposes, I'm gonna make a video and I'm gonna talk about the 15 books that I read this month so that maybe next month I can come back to you with a stack. Let's try to make it 14 for love, right? 214 for love?
L for love.
Let's make it for love next month. So let's make my February goal 14 books. Without further ado, let's get right into it. All right, so the first book that I read this year is Assassin's Blade by Sarah J. Maas. I read this book third in the series, and so prior to reading this, I have read Throne of Glass and I've read Crown of Midnight. So glad that I chose to read this book third. So I bought this probably, I don't know, 5 or 6 years ago, back when it was readily available, printed with this copy. And I really had a hard time getting into it. Really didn't find myself caring about these 5 short stories because I didn't really know the main character. Reading this book third really helped me kind of go into it with already knowing some of the things that were going to happen in this book. So certainly some spoilers, reading books 1 and 2 first. However, I feel like then in this book, it breaks those down to more in depth and gives more detail about each of those events. And so personally, I really felt like I was way more invested in the story. I felt like I was way more invested in the character, Selena, our main character. I love her. And I felt like I was getting some really good information that I didn't have from my previous experience reading books 1 and 2. Got some of these vague backstory plot points, but this really filled in the blanks. So this book was amazing. This book destroyed me. This book really got me excited to go into the next book in the series, Heir of Fire. Overall, I'm gonna give it a 4.5 stars. I'm glad I read it in the order that I did and cannot wait to get into the next book in the series. So, and the next book that I read this month, it's another book in a series. So it's actually the 6th book in a series. I actually read A Breath of Snow and Ashes by Diana Gabaldon. So this is like a 970 page book. It's these really thin pages with this really fine print, which is definitely not my favorite. I'm not gonna lie.
It's a tiny piece of paper. Okay, that's all it is.
These books take me a little while to get through, so I started this in December, maybe even end of November, but I finished it this month, so I'm counting it as a January book. This, I would give about a 3.5 star. I absolutely love Diana Gabaldon's writing. I'm obsessed with this universe. I love Jamie and Claire. I have to admit, I watched the show first, and I really didn't care much about Roger and Brianna. I felt like it was kind of like forced on us. Like, here you have to care about these 2 characters. Obviously, Brianna is Claire's daughter. I didn't really understand why I should care about their love, why I should care about all of that. What I will say is the books do a lot better job of making you care about Roger and Brianna. And this is definitely a very Roger and Brianna heavy book. Essentially, this book is the 6th book in the installment. We are starting in the year 1772 in colonial America as things are ramping up, heading toward the American Revolution. And we are following, of course, Jamie and Claire, Roger and Brianna at Fraser's Ridge. And so, of course, I love all the adventures. I love Diana's writing. I love, she's punchy, she's witty, she's funny. I feel like Diana does such a good job of encompassing historical fiction, romance, fantasy, sci-fi, all the things all in one book. I'm working on this for a few years, and I'm looking forward to getting caught up to where the show is and maybe even surpassing the show. So super excited about that. Okay, so the next book that I read was the first book in a series, okay? And I don't consider myself a romance girly, first and foremost. I'm not romance girly. I just said about Diana Gabaldon and how I love the components of historical fiction, love the components of romance in the book and how they intertwine, and one doesn't necessarily dominate the other. Hello, A Curious Beginning by Deanna Raybourn. I cannot, first of all, thank Katie Colson enough. Obsessed with her channel, watched a ton of her videos this year, and she got me excited to read this series. Oh my gosh, I cannot say enough good things. This is a 5 star, 4.5 or 5, but I'm gonna say 5 just because I feel like this is so So refreshing. A Curious Beginning really introduces us to our main character, Veronica Speedwell. She is an independent Victorian woman. She does not need a man. She does not want a man. She cares very little about marriage and traditional lifestyle of what a Victorian woman should be looking for. So Veronica is a lepidopterist, so she is a butterfly hunter. So she's catching these butterflies, she's studying them for science, she's preserving them, and she is basically the most amazing main character in the entire world. What I love about this book, this is a wonderful adventure, kind of a accidental, like, oh, we have to work together, we gotta solve this mystery. There are romance components in it. However, in this first book in particular, it's really strongly a platonic type of kind of romance, if you will. Like, it is two adults, Veronica and Stoker, and they are just really good friends. They understand one another, they respect one another. He respects her opinions, she respects his. They are both really entertaining characters. They're so charming, they're witty, they're smart, they're punchy, and I just absolutely love the main male character in this book, Stoker, as well. I just feel like it's not always that often that we see this like super respectful male main character love interest, and maybe that's just because I don't read a lot of romance novels, and when I do, it tends to be those types. And so when I do run into like a trendy romance that I'll read, for instance, I've ventured down the Colleen Hoover lane. It's just not for me.
No, sir, I don't like it.
This is a really great story, and I highly recommend this. I will be rereading the series, and I have read quite a few of them already this month of January, so we'll talk a little bit more about that too. So the next book I read, I don't have a physical copy and I don't have my phone handy. It's an audiobook that I listened to. It was The Wager by David Grann. Gave it 4 stars. So it's a nonfiction story. It's written by the same author that wrote Killers of the Flower Moon. So I actually haven't read that book, but I just watched the movie with Leonardo DiCaprio, and it was a really moving, powerful film. I sat after the film ended on my couch, just kind of like deep in contemplation for like, I don't know, a half an hour after it ended. So The Wager is a story of piracy and mutiny, and it's a really interesting story. And I think what's really cool about it is it kind of gives some power to like the 3 sides to every story, right? There's their side, and then there's the truth. That was really the dynamic of the story, because this is it is based on a true story, and it really was an epic tale. It had me gripped from start to finish. It was a definitely easy nonfiction read for me to be able to get through this month. So all in all, I recommend it, and I think I'm going to read Killers of the Flower Moon, because that movie really just really pulled a string, and it touched something inside of me that made me want to read more about that story and learn more about that history. The next book that I read this month was A Perilous Undertaking by Deanna Raybourn. It is the second book in the Veronica Speedwell series. Absolutely 5 stars. Stoker and Veronica forever. This is such a wonderful story of friendship, of love, of mutual respect, and let me tell you, it is so sexy. Okay, the boundaries, yes please. Respect them, absolutely. Immediately went straight in and read the next book after this. So all I can say about this book is 5 stars. I am fully obsessed with this. I'm fully obsessed with these 2. I love the universe. I love the tone that the author writes with. It is injected with wit, with charm. So that will lead me literally right into my next read, which was A Treacherous Curse by Deanna Raybourn. Again, I cannot get enough of these 2. They are some of the most lovable main characters I have ever encountered. They're dynamic, it's electric, it's entertaining, it keeps you on your toes, it makes you feel like you're flirting, okay? If an author can make me feel like I'm flirting, like someone's flirting with me, it's over. It's over. Like I would much rather read about flirting and feel flirted with than have like a ton of smutty scenes. That's just me. I don't think there's anything wrong with smut. Like I'll read books that have smut in them. I'm totally fine with it. But man, I just love how, I don't know, it's so flirty. That's all I can say. I'm a flirt, okay? I'm a flirt, and that's it. I'm a flirt.
Hey, how you doing?
I love it. The next book that I read, I don't have a physical copy of. I actually read it. I'll see if I can pull it up. I read it on Scribe. It's a graphic novel called Monstress. Let me pull it up really quick. It's not Scribed anymore. It's Everand. Scribed is now for like the documents. Oh, here it is. Monstress by Marjorie Liu, I think is her last name. I don't have a Kindle. I read on my iPad. So Monstress, excuse me, that was rude. Monstress by Marjorie Liu. I was obsessed with the art style. That's what really drew me to it. Let me see if I can find an appropriate first page. Just really, really liked the art style. There was something about it that was just really appealing to me. I kind of felt, I don't know, maybe a little Zelda-esque. I just really liked it, and so that's what drew me into it. The story was pretty good. I gave it 3 stars. Graphic novels aren't my typical thing. I'm really trying to challenge myself this year to read more graphic novels. And the reason for that is because I think they're awesome. I am obsessed with the art style in so many of them, and I pick them up, but I never actually take the time to actually read them. And I remember when I was in school, I can't remember if it was, I think it was Fun House by Alison Bechtel. I think that was the first graphic novel that I ever read in a women's writing course that I took. And that was a really great story. Obviously, it was like a family dynamic story, if I remember correctly. It was a little bit talking about some serious like trauma and emotional struggles, but I remember liking the graphic novel experience and asking myself, you know, like, why don't I read more graphic novels? And that was a really long time ago. Undergraduate was an embarrassingly long time ago for me to even be bringing that up. So more graphic novels this year. You'll see on my February wrap up, hopefully at least 1, maybe 2 graphic novels as well. And so yeah, Monstress by Marjorie Liu, highly recommend. I think it was a really good initial installment, and I think there's quite a few of them. So I'm in for a treat. The next book is actually going to be 2 books because I don't think they merit their own segments. I didn't like them. Daughter of the Moon Goddess and Heart of the Sun Warrior. So these are beautiful book covers, and there is a lot of Chinese mythology laced within the pages of these books. I loved that, personally. I love Chinese mythology. I love reading fantasies that are set in Asian cultures, in countries. I feel like we get so much Western fantasy that it's so nice to get something that has so much Chinese mythology laced inside of it. And I will say the story itself in both of these books, this one in particular, I actually liked the story a little bit more than I liked the story in this one. But I also feel like each of these books could have been about 200 to 270 pages shorter if you'd taken out the romance. I didn't like the romance. I am not a fan of romance feeling like it's there just to be there. I am not a fan of romance being there because it's convenient. I don't know. I feel like sometimes romance gets put in a book for the sake of doing it. And I get it. It's what the people want. You got to give the people what they want.
I don't even know what that means.
No one knows what it means, but it's provocative.
No, it's not. It
Gets the people going.
But in this particular case, I felt like it was a really big miss for me, honestly. And when you find yourself wishing that the love interests will die just so that you don't have to read about them anymore, it's too much. It's just too much. I gave both of these books a 2.5 star, and I felt like that was being generous. So let's just talk about it. Heir of Fire by Sarah Janet Maas. I am now halfway through the series. So I read book 1, book 2, the prequel, and now I have read book 3. I feel like this is definitely an easy 4 stars for me. I feel like the story is really picking up. It makes me intrigued. I want to know what's going to happen next. I'm way more invested in my main character here than I was in my main character for ACOTAR series. For me, I didn't mind ACOTAR, but it wasn't my favorite. Throne of Glass has quickly become my favorite Sarah J. Maas series. I am fully obsessed with the character development. I am fully obsessed with our female main character, Selena. I even really like all of our supporting characters. I'm a fan, and I don't have a lot of complaints about this book. One thing I will say about Sarah Maas, and I have noticed it in every book of hers that I've ever read in my entire life, and I cannot be the only one, all of her characters throw up all the time. Everyone's throwing up. Everyone's just throwing up all the time. Like, oh, I'm so scared, throwing up. Oh my God, that's the most disgusting news I've ever heard in my whole life, throwing up. Oh my God, I'm exaggerating. My boyfriend cheated on me. Ugh, throwing up. Like, I don't throw up when I get upset like that. Like, maybe I'm in the minority. Tell me if I am. But I feel like all of Sarah J. Maas's characters are always throwing up. And so, like, because of that, because I've noticed that, I like highlight and underline every time someone throws up in these books, which is disgusting. I'm fully aware of that. I know I'm foul. I deserve to be shunned. But every time someone throws up in a Sarah Maas book, you bet that I'm noting it. That's super underwhelming. Okay, here we go. So the next book I read this year is Thursday Murder Club by Richard Osman. So again, Katie Coulson made me do it. I do watch other YouTubers. I promise you I watch other YouTubers. I swear. And I will prove it in future videos. But this month, I should have just titled this video, Katie Coulson Made Me Do It. Richard Osman wrote The Thursday Murder Club. This is a really cool story. I love that we're following older adult characters and senior citizens. Thursday Murder Club is literally set in a retirement village. It is a cozy mystery kind of vibe. It's a little retirement village called Cooper's Chase. I adore all of our characters. So they all have really charming personalities. They all have a little bit of backstory that we get throughout. And all in all, I thought it was a really fun, I really thought it was a great concept. The chapters are so short. So I actually have it here and I was listening to it on audio as well. And there was like, I don't know. I thought it was like 20 minutes had gone by and then it was like chapter 47. And I was like, excuse me? So I had to pull out my iPad version and do a little referencing. And yeah, I had already reached to like chapter 47. So short chapters, really easy to read. I'm gonna give that a 4 stars or 3.5 stars probably. It wasn't the most amazing writing in the entire world, but it was a really good time. And for that, I will always award 3.5 to 4 stars. So the next book that I read, again, I'm blaming Katie Coulson.
Absolutely 150% your fault.
Mayfly. This book, oh my God, this book, first of all, the cover is beautiful. I love it. I just think it's so pretty. I used to be a dental hygienist. I'm still licensed as a dental hygienist. I just don't practice anymore. So I kind of have a thing for like teeth and all of that. So I'm totally into it. Actually, let me this could not be more appropriate for Mayfly, right? Like, I am obsessed. So Mayfly, it did it for me. I am fully obsessed with this book. I think that it was freaky, it was weird, it was eerie, but it was also, I don't know, there was a little romance component to it. I didn't get super invested in the romance. However, I was a little bit surprised by the ending, and I liked that. I went into this not really having any idea what to expect besides like the recommendation on YouTube, seeing that this was like a frigged up, like Elsa works at Disneyland, but she's also like kind of a serial killer type vibe. I think that this was a really great, I think this is her debut, if I'm not mistaken. I think this is a really great debut. Like, I am definitely going to read the next CJ Lead book that comes out. Also, let's just talk about the color of the hardback is like this, like minty, seafoamy. 4 stars for sure. And I am definitely looking for her next book. Super excited. Bunny by Mona Awad. This book, I actually liked it.
And now back to your regularly scheduled program.
I actually liked it. I feel like the bunnies were like one unit. So when I was reading their like text, I kind of envisioned like, even though if it would just be like one bunny saying it, I kind of envisioned them all saying it. And that made this really creepy. I felt like this book was really well written. It was a page turner for sure. It was really strange, but I dig it. Okay. Bunny was really good. And I think there was a lot of really important messaging throughout this book as well, hidden deep within the text, if you will. So I think if you read it just at the surface level, you might be like, what the heck is going on? And I would say for about this much of the book, I was like, what the heck is going on? But then I would say for like this rest of the book, I was like, okay. So there's some messaging happening here outside of just this really creepy cult of bunnies. One thing I particularly liked about this story is it is set in a New England town and it's at university. and it is a prestigious, snobby university where like a lot of snobby academics go, and people are kind of hoity-toity, but at the same time, it's within this town that's like all kinds of screwed up, lots of crime everywhere, lots of poverty everywhere, lots of drug use everywhere. And so just that juxtaposition, I thought as like a backdrop was really interesting. So for me, I would say Bunny is a 4-star read. I really enjoyed it, and I don't know if I'll ever do a reread of it, but I thought it was a really interesting book, and it gave me the creeps, and I love that. I love getting the creeps. I did not see this coming. I had no expectation that I would be fully obsessed with this book. I had no expectation that I would be looking at you in the eyes, in your eyes, and saying that Part of Your World by Abby Jimenez is a 5-star book. I cried a lot during this book, like happy tears, cute tears. Like I loved these characters. Both of them. Both of our main characters are male and female, Alexis and Daniel, love interest characters. They are both really different, but in the best ways. And I blew through this book at light speed. Like I said, I am not typically a romance girly, and I rarely pick up a book that is like solely romance, okay? But this is a story about fate and love and finding your place, your home in this world, okay? And like, I could literally cry talking about what an important message that is, that not always is your home in the world the place where you feel like you're supposed to be and the thing that you're supposed to be doing. And sometimes your home in the world is a person or is a feeling, or a group of people. And so I absolutely loved this book. I 5-star this book so easily. I will read this book again. I'm crying talking about it. Literally, this book was so fun. And it turns out that I just might be a little bit of a romance girly. So this is my first Abby Jimenez book. It will not be my last. I plan on reading the next book in the Part of Your World series, yours truly, next month for February. February is the month of love, okay? So like maybe it's time to explore this newfound romance girly, because I am a historical fiction, sci-fi girly, but maybe I'm also a romance girly, you know? Maybe, like who knows? So I hope you enjoyed this monthly wrap up with me. I look forward to doing another one at the end of February, and I will come back with some more romance, some more fantasy, some more historical fiction, as well as some nonfiction and graphic novels. The other 4 on my shelf back there, I am certainly gonna read them probably, honestly, this month of February coming up. I just wanna say thank you for sticking around this long. If you made it this far, drop a tooth emoji, because, you know, we like teeth around here, and I look forward to seeing you with my February wrap up. Thanks.